The Omicron variant of COVID-19 was discovered in South Africa on November 24th. Days later, on December 1st, found in the United States. By December 23rd, it was confirmed in Idaho and now accounts for 98% of all COVID infections in the Treasure Valley. And we're already seeing the next version work its way around with the subvariant of Omicron, confirmed in Ada County last Friday. It's a lot of moving parts with which our labs have to try to keep up. How do they do it? And how do we know what variant is circulating in our community? Katya Stepovic went to the lab to find out.
As of mid-January 2022, the state of Idaho has sequenced nearly 5,000 positive COVID samples to find certain variants, and the demand to sequence more is increasing. Dr. Christopher Ball, director of the Department of Health and Welfare's lab, says the lab has been doing whole genome sequencing for things like bacteria viruses that cause foodborne illnesses for several years. Then, at that time, the lab was processing maybe 16 samples every 2 weeks. That was the lab's capacity. But since then,
we're processing thousands of samples per week. We've completely built a new sequencing program from scratch.
If you would have asked me 3 years ago that I am where I am right now, I would not believe it.
Through federal funding, the lab has been able to build their program in order to meet demand.
The goal here is really to try to monitor how the virus is changing through time and to be on the lookout for new variants of concern.
The lab can start on roughly 300 samples a day. But the process can take days and includes 6 different steps. It starts out like this.
So once we receive all of those samples, the first step that we're going to do is to prepare those samples for extraction of the nucleic acid in the positive samples.
Basically, chemicals are put together so that they can purify a positive sample.
We take the sample that has the virus in it, and we separate all of the RNA and DNA out of that sample from everything else.
They separate and clean the DNA and RNA in order to create a high concentration of it, to get rid of any enzymes in the sample that could potentially create a false negative. They put that cleaning solution into 94 different tubes. That's as many as they can process at one time. Then it's time for step 2, adding to the positive sample, a step that must be done by hand.
Our staff have to be really focused because you've got 94 patient samples that you're trying to get into a precise location, and you've got to make sure that you're matching up the sample with the map, the plate map, so that we get the right sequence associated with the right patient.
Then the samples are put into this machine, which uses a magnetic method to separate the RNA and DNA from each sample. After that, the next step is to make thousands of copies of a single sample.
So that's what we're doing in this instrument, and it goes through a series of temperature steps that help the chemicals and enzymes in there make all of those copies of the genetic material.
And that alone takes several hours. After copies are made, each sample is given a barcode to be able to identify each sample and where it came from. Once they are labeled, they are loaded onto the sequencer, which makes a digital copy of each sample. This alone can take a full 24 hours. Once that's done, it's put into a database to determine what variant is present.
So this AY.25 is a Delta, this BA.1.1 is an Omicron, and that's how we...
Look at how many Omicron cases.
Yep, so it's almost exclusively Omicrons with a few Deltas mixed in.
The sequence information is then submitted to the state to report. Dr. Ball hopes it's that people understand how long the process of informing the public about circulating variants can take.
And I understand why people, they want to know the answer quickly. And I think that there's a misconception that it's an easy answer to get to.
But the process, as we know, takes multiple days, if not a week.
It's been really a challenge for us to balance workload and balance expectations to make sure that these hardworking state employees can continue to do the good work that they've been doing for 2 years and now going into the 3rd year.
2 years into it, it's very frustrating. I feel like for a lot of the time people referenced it as running a marathon, but we're at the point of when does the marathon actually end?
It is a great question. Now, the process is so intricate and detail-oriented, as we just saw, that some samples can be faulty. To this day, 1,108 samples did not sequence successfully, which is important for the public and our viewers to keep in mind, Brian, that there's potentially higher variant numbers than we're seeing being reported right now. And these things move around the world in a matter of weeks, these variants. And so it's a marathon that never ends. Exactly. That seems to be the best description. All right, thank you very much, Katya. So when